Next scenario, we got a volunteer runs up and says, there's a little boy wandering near 1675 Delaware crying for his mom.
You gotta go. Send somebody to get him, bring him back.
Okay, so what are you thinking? We gotta send somebody to get him, right? You know, we don't leave little children running around in the street. So she's doing her same thing again, except, yeah, that's fine. I was gonna say we have radios, but that's not what you would do with this situation, right? This is not, we're gonna die, so you don't use the radio. Okay, so she's writing it all down, and then she takes her little runner, you know, the admin runners, they take it back and deal with it, right? So one thing maybe though is, where are we gonna take this boy? Let's start thinking about that. It comes back to the headquarters. Ooh, child care. We haven't set that up yet. So this is going to be one of those scenarios where medical will probably be the fallback position until you can get something else set up. But you've got to think about child care, and on the flip side, elderly care and pet care.
Special needs.
Yeah, so you've got the special needs, the whole thing happening there. So you're going to have either separate places or one giant place with different kind of divisions. Yes, ma'am?
Question, what is the range of size for this headquarter thing? How many households, how
many households would this headquarters typically run? We recommend that you try to have a headquarters for no more than about 75 households or so. You may have to break down into smaller groups. You could probably handle 100 with enough people and enough division of, resources and stuff here. But you typically want to try to limit that as much as you can. We've broken down into kind of like 3 divisional groups for the search and rescue part, but we still got one commander managing all the resources.
What about the smallest? I mean, unless you're...
You can have as small as you want. I mean, if it's only 5 houses, 10 houses, it's just, there's not a whole lot to prioritize at that point because there's so few things. But how many of your neighbors that are not part of your group are going to suddenly come into your group because they know you exist? They're going to ask for help. We already know this. We've already had our people around us saying, hey, we're just going to come to your neighborhood because you're organized. So keep that in mind too. Yeah. We're going to eat your food and drink your water. Okay, so we would of course have either the commander would maybe say, go back out to the volunteers and find someone to take care of it. So I come out here and find, child care. That person's a teacher. They work with kids all the time. Go back, either use the microphone, hey, where's Mrs. Teacher? Oh, Mrs. Teacher, come on out here. We got a kid down in the The other thing too is, no one said if he was injured. So we have a lack of information, so we have to take care of that. Yes, ma'am?
This is a very basic question. You're talking about so many people. So is it understood in your neighborhood group that after an incident, that everyone, rather than staying around their own property, would come to the headquarters? Is that the understanding, that everyone is to come to the headquarters?
Yes, at least to report in to say that they're okay. And if they see anything, to tell us things that are happening. We only expect probably 30 to 50% to actually participate. Other people will just kind of hunker down. Because, people have kids, and so who's going to watch the kids? Well, if you set up a child care center, now the volunteers can bring their children to be watched by the child care center while they go and help their neighbors. So there's versatility involved in doing all these things too. Yes?
So what do you do with people who are not, our neighborhood, around the corner from our neighborhood is a grocery store and some restaurants and a coffee house and stuff like that. So there's actually people near our neighborhood who would probably end up in our neighborhood because they're going to be stranded there.
Depending upon the time of day.
Right, so obviously we would take care of them, but how do you fold those people into your structure?
The question is about if you live near businesses that have a lot of people, and of course when the earthquake happens, they're going to be kind of trapped in your area and looking for help. You just do the best you can. That's what you've got, the headquarters, the commanders prioritizing. Depending upon who in that group may seem competent, you can put them in charge of that group. It's now you kind of have a little subgroup. And you can really empower people by giving them something to do with the quake. If they're just sitting there, they're thinking about, gee, I wonder what happened in my house, my car, my wife, my kids, my dog, and they're getting freaked out. But if they're doing something useful and helpful, it helps them to stay calm and focused. So it really does help on the psychological level, which is, again, a whole other class. So.
The child is brought to child care, not communicating for whatever reason. And then I show up and say, I'm Rick, I usually do his child care on Mondays. You'd probably rather be with me. So how do you know?
The question is, what if the child is uncommunicative, either because they're too young or they're just in shock? You just do the best you can. You put an ID card in their pocket, if you can, and put down the information he was found here at this location at this time, and hope that somebody comes to the child care, comes to the volunteer table. Well, where's my son? What does he look like?
When that happens,
yeah.
And they identify themselves as a babysitter, how do you know that they really are?
Yeah, so now we're talking about people lying about who they are, and now they're trying to steal children. Okay, so that's a whole other can of worms. And you have to trust that in this kind of scenario, that people are going to be generally good. The reason I say this is because of the incident with Loma Prieta in 1989. It was people running out of the housing projects next to the freeway that saved dozens of lives, completely untrained, and just put ladders up against the freeway and climbed up there. Now this is probably a neighborhood you would not even want to drive through in the daytime originally. So you got, you just have to trust in your fellow man at that point and hope that this is, and perhaps on your roster you might say the following individuals are allowed to sign out my child or whatever. Or if you're unsure, keep him there. Don't let him leave, even though you say he's going to be better off. Yes, Barbara?
Yeah, I think that for young children, and it would matter their age, the standard would be to get some corroboration, as to whether that person really has a relationship with that child. With an older kid, they would tell you.
Usually a neighborhood that's well connected will know who's who and who's not who, in
That's
other
what I was
words.
going to say. I would look for neighbors who know the kids before we would
And that's probably going to happen. All right, let's move on. Okay, so now we've got a volunteer who runs up and says,